confidence is an important thing to have, really, isn't it? You need to have a certain amount of confidence before you attempt anything. If you're pretty certain that you're not going to be any good at something, it gets self-fulfilling pretty quick, doesn't it? There's an old saying in radio that if you suspect that you're rubbish, then you will be. And that's true of other aspects of life, that if we can talk ourselves out of something, but I don't know, how much confidence is too much confidence? Somebody who certainly exudes confidence, John Cowan, joining us on the program. John, kia ora.
Kia ora. Exudes confidence with very little basis for it. That's actually what I want to talk about this morning. What is the basis for your confidence? What's a genuine way that you can self-assess? My wife is the CEO of Equip, which is a mental health organisation affiliated with Windsor Park Baptist,
Yep.
and she has about 80 staff, and she's been competently leading this organisation. So I try and give her advice as she heads off in the morning. Advice like, tell your staff you don't have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You're actually just genuinely bad at your job, and we talk about you behind your back. Fortunately, she is a wise woman and doesn't actually listen to what I'm saying. But it does impress me often. Well, two things impress me. One of those really bright and competent people who are plagued with self-doubts, and then the people that overestimate their ability and charge in to try things that that they just really shouldn't. And I know we've talked about the Dunning-Kruger effect before, which is that rather charming little analysis that sort of shows that people with more competence doubt themselves and people with less competence have more confidence, which is just makes so much sense. But how does one actually, even if you know that, how do you actually get a clear idea of how we are? Because we often tend to take the setbacks and the knockbacks as our judgment on ourselves. If you get knocked back by a romance, so much, the lovely thing about being in a romance is they say such wonderful things about you and you believe yourself to be good and beautiful and everything, and you soar on their vision of yourself. And then the relationship ends and it negates everything that they said or she said.
You're worse off than you were at the beginning in some cases.
Absolutely. And so crushing self-confidence is a huge downside of relationship failures and divorces and things. And the other thing is, so many people, they're in such a harsh environment where they're trying to get employment. They're sending off 50 job applications and not even hearing back. They're submitting books and things to publishers and not ever getting accepted. They're endlessly trying on these dating sites and getting turned down. It's actually, the thing is, it's telling you more about the market that you're in than about yourself. The fact that there are people that apply for 50 jobs and then get one. And so, which ones were telling you the truth about yourself? The 49 that rejected you or the one that you got? And so the thing to think about that is, this is not a good self-assessment tool. I don't necessarily have to take on board the fact that I am dumb just because I'm not getting these jobs that I'm applying for. It's an inaccurate measure. And the other inaccurate measure is that romantic breakup that I said. But another thing is comparing yourself with other people, because what we tend to do when we're comparing ourselves with colleagues and friends and people we went to school with is we compare ourselves, our valleys, with their peaks. Look at that person doing so well in business where I'm still struggling. Okay. They don't see the wonderful successes that you have in the sports field or in music or in your relationships or in parenting. They just see the fact that there is someone over there with a very conspicuous success in the business world. So comparison is not wise. If you really, I think I've talked about this before as well, if you really want to have a miserable journey, play the better car, worse car game as you're driving along the road. As cars come towards you, go, better car, worse car, better car, comparing your car with theirs. I can guarantee it will turn it into a miserable journey. And so comparison isn't great. Even looking at your past performance may not be a particularly accurate way of looking at yourself. I sometimes think it's a bit odd that we judge a person's entire success in life by the academics successes they have during their adolescence.
Yeah, yeah,
And, when I think back to the adolescent John Cowan, what an awful, awful young man he was. Um, and to think that what if my whole life had been blighted by his failures and incompetencies? You can improve. I mean, there are so many stories of late bloomers, of people that take on an adult apprenticeship or suddenly have some confidence and go back to university, and the subjects that they flunked out in at high school, they suddenly discover, actually, not only am I good at it, I'm enjoying it. So
yeah.
even your past is not necessarily an accurate measure. So how do you find out who you are and what you're good at? Well, one is sort of objective tests and feedback, the Myers-Briggs tests and the Strength Finders and the 360 reviews they do at
Not
work.
necessarily the ones that you find on Facebook. That those ones aren't necessarily scientifically accurate, perhaps, but they may make you feel better, John. On the bright
They
side,
can be fun,
yeah,
especially when they're called things like, "Who are you on the Starship Enterprise?" Yay, I'm a Dr. Spock. Yay, I'm a Sulu. But they're fun. But I mean, they
yeah,
may not be very accurate. But a good, valid test. But the thing to take from that, when you say get assessed at work,
yeah,
the thing to take from that is not where am I on some sort of imaginary pecking order,
hmm,
but which way am I moving? Am I better than I was? Are there areas of concern that I need to note? So use them as a direction indicator.
hmm,
Which way am I going? And most of you will be encouraged to discover, hey, yeah, I'm still struggling with a lot of these things at work, but I'm getting better. I used to be useless at that particular task. Now I'm okay.
yeah,
That's the type of thing that you need to take. Another thing is to separate your life into strands and realistically acknowledge you might need to improve, say, in your bookkeeping, but you're pretty darn good as a plumber or a tradesman or something.
yeah.
Don't think, oh, I'm a failure because I have all those customers complaining that I'm not getting their invoices paid and things like that. No, you're a fantastic electrician. It's just that you need some help or some encouragement in another strand of your life.
Yeah, better be that than the other way around to be a really good bookkeeper and a lousy electrician. That could
Oh,
lead
they
to a
don't
very
live
short
very long.
career. Yeah.
They do the 50 hertz jig hanging from a PowerPoint, and oh well, there you got your assessment very accurately of who.
Just wanting to circle back actually to imposter syndrome, because this
Oh
actually
yeah.
I think may be a valid indicator as well. That if you are in that space where you're about to find out whether or not you're any good at something, then that's probably an indication that you're moving forward. Then I think we
Mm,
can all get stuck just doing the things that we know that we can do to at least a reasonable level, rather than
mm.
pushing ourselves into the space where we're saying, I might be totally rubbish at this. Let's find out. So imposter syndrome may actually be a positive indicator that you're growing and learning. And also, I
Mm.
think, gosh, you know what the opposite of imposter syndrome is? I'd rather feel like an imposter who's having a go than some arrogant person that thinks that they're totally brilliant at everything and obviously isn't. So maybe it's a good syndrome to adopt. John, what do you think?
I think imposter syndrome is a wonderful thing. I mean, I sometimes wonder, when I look back at the things I've done and attempted, and some of them have been steaming failures, but a lot of them, actually, they've worked out. And I sometimes wonder, is this really my life, or did I pick up someone else's by mistake? When are people going to realize the tragic mistake they've made picking me for this job or this position? And the thing is, dismiss imposter syndrome. If you're doing the job and people uh, you know, you're getting good feedback, guess what? You're not an imposter. That really is you.
And hey, maybe it's a good check and balance to too much arrogance and an overinflated self-esteem.
That's right. Do listen to feedback, especially, but weight it. Weight it, with who it's coming from.
Yeah.
Is it coming from someone who loves you? Well, Yeah, maybe you even dismiss the praise a little bit and listen to the criticisms more. If it comes from someone who's normally cynical and critical, listen to the praise from that person, but perhaps wait their criticism.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's lots more on this topic, but that's probably enough blather from me.
Hey, John, always appreciate your wisdom and insights. Thanks so much for being on the program once again.
It's grand to be part of your team. Cheers.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.